Greetings and welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm your host, Jim Wiggins. If this is your first time tuning into our program, allow me a few moments to introduce what we're all about. So what exactly is Cybersecurity Today? Well, it's a show designed to explore the realm of computer security in an exciting and thoughtful way. Cybersecurity Today is a half-hour news broadcast utilizing a talk show format to break down the themes, topics, and current events in the cybersecurity industry. Our mission with this program is to dispel the murkiness and complexity that's often associated with the cybersecurity sector. For our viewers who are already active professionals in the field, this show will deliver a pulse on the current state of affairs. We feature a variety of esteemed guests to delve into topics that are important to those in the cybersecurity space. Our objective is to offer information to a diverse audience, from beginners all the way to experts and everyone in between. You're sure to gain fresh insights from today's show. All right, so let's set the stage and discuss the structure of the show. This will help you understand what's in store. Today's show is divided into two parts. Our first segment is known as Cyber Bites, and this covers several current events unfolding today in the cybersecurity sector. Some of these stories might be familiar, while others may be entirely new to you. Then, in our second segment, we're joined by Mr. Gregory Crabb, a seasoned cybersecurity executive and field CISO at Mimic. He'll be discussing real-time ransomware defense, lessons from the field from a CISO, sharing insights from over 25 years of frontline experience defending critical infrastructure and leading enterprise cyber risk reduction initiatives across government and industry. Okay, so let's get into the Cyber Bite segment and talk about what's going on today in the cybersecurity industry. In current news, Oracle issued its quarterly critical patch update addressing 309 flaws in 34 product families. Of those, 145 could be exploited remotely without authentication, hitting flagship technologies such as Oracle Communications, MySQL, and Fusion middleware. Two database bugs, CVSS scores of 8.8 and 9.0, and high-severity Java issues topped the list, underscoring the need for rapid, enterprise-wide remediation. In other news, Google rushed an out-of-band Chrome 138 patch in July of 2025 to stop an in-the-wild exploitation of CVE 2025-6558, a high-severity angle GPU flaw that enables sandbox escape. 5 additional vulnerabilities were fixed, marking the browser's 5th zero-day exploit or patch of 2025. Users on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux were told to update immediately. Edge, Brave, and other Chrome-based browsers are following suit. In other news, CISO warned on July 14th that attackers are actively abusing a critical input validation bug in NetScaler's ADC gateway dubbed Citrix Bleed 2. The agency broke precedents by giving federal agencies just 24 hours to patch, highlighting the risk of unauthenticated memory overreads that leak session tokens and credentials. Researchers report a spike in scanning and exploitation attempts. Those are some of the headlines shaping the cybersecurity landscape today. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, Mr. Gregory Crabb, the field CISO at Mimic, will join us to discuss real-time ransomware defense, lessons from a field CISO. We'll see you shortly.
Hi, I'm Josh Temple. You might have seen me on TV where I help folks turn their houses into dream homes. But forget construction. Parenting is the toughest job there is. So when you need help or advice, turn to the parenting experts at Boys Town.
Welcome back to Cybersecurity Today. In this next segment, we're honored to welcome Mr. Gregory Crabb, the former Chief Information Security Officer of the United States Postal Service, and now serving as Field CISO at Mimic. A highly respected cybersecurity executive with more than 25 years of experience, Greg has led cyber risk reduction initiatives at the national level, championed public-private partnerships, and helped secure critical infrastructure across government and industry. As Field CISO at Mimic, he continues to advance the mission of protecting enterprises through cutting-edge cybersecurity strategies and solutions. Today, he'll join us for our segment entitled Real-Time Ransomware Defense, Lessons from a Field CISO, where he'll share practical insights from years on the front line responding to ransomware threats, enabling secure digital transformation, and building resilient cyber programs in complex environments. Greg, welcome to the show.
Jim, thank you so much for having me, and great to be here.
Absolutely. We're very appreciative of you coming in and spending time with us. I was wondering, we have a pretty diverse audience. We have people that know very little about cybersecurity and people that know a lot. But I thought maybe we could ask if you could kind of level set for us and really talk a little bit about what ransomware is for a minute and why it's such a concern for organizations.
I think for your viewership, the first time we as citizens really understood the impacts of ransomware was a Colonial Pipeline attack. This was about 4 years ago, and many of us may recall that we couldn't get gas at the local gas station. And what had happened in that attack was an Eastern European cybercrime group infected computers that ran the operational technologies of Colonial Pipeline, and as a result, the Colonial Pipeline shut down in order to be able to restore their systems. It went on for about 6 or 7 days and had significant economic impacts. And I think for viewers, I think that was probably our first time as the public of understanding what the impacts of ransomware are. And it really is a technical problem that organizations need to prepare for and deal with.
So can you talk a little bit about exactly how the attack, maybe just at a very high level, operates? I know it encrypts data, but what does that mean for the organization?
Of course. So from a ransomware attack perspective, cybercrime groups will use malicious software. So they create computer code that's designed to infiltrate a computer network, identify an organization's most critical data, for example, or their most critical business systems, and then compromise those systems either to steal the data from a data exfiltration perspective or to encrypt the systems so they're no longer operable. And as a result, victim companies or citizens that fall victim to ransomware attacks are impacted. And then the threat actors work as a business. Literally, this is organized crime, and they negotiate with their victim companies to demand a ransom. And if the ransom is not paid, the company, the organized crime group will share the stolen data out to the public, or they don't restore the systems back to an operable state. So it has significant impacts and really stems from very organized cybercrime.
Understood. I know that in the ransomware world, they talk sometimes about real-time ransomware defense. Can you spend a moment and talk about what that actually looks like, really, I guess, in the moments when it matters, when that data has been encrypted and basically being held hostage?
Absolutely. So real-time ransomware defense depends on being able to protect your most trusted applications. So in Colonial Pipeline's situation, it was the operational technologies that actually control the flow of gas and other oil products through the pipeline. In other organizations like healthcare organizations, hospitals have fallen victim to these attacks, and their medical equipment will malfunction or be inoperable. And from a defense perspective, organizations need to be able to protect those most critical assets from these types of attacks to make them survivable, if you will, in the face of a malicious attack. And so real-time defense is trying to put a container around those most critical applications so that they stay operable and deflect any bad and keep the good operating in the face of the attack.
Understood. Has ransomware evolved since the Colonial Pipeline or even other events over the last few years? And if so, could you maybe explain how our general public might kind of appreciate that or understand it, I guess?
Absolutely. As a law enforcement officer, I served as a law enforcement officer for 25 years. And my first data exfiltration and extortion investigation was in 2003. So I've seen this evolve over the last 22 years. And in the early days, the attacks were much smaller. The targets that were being hit from a data theft perspective were much more contained. Attacks were localized to a small portion of the network. The first time we really saw at a grand scale a big attack was what some folks recall to be the WannaCry attack.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
And that was in 2017.
Yep.
And that was a huge global phenomena that victim companies like FedEx and Maersk and others really were front and center relative to what professionals consider to be a highly effective but poorly targeted attack. And then as that demonstration from that WannaCry attack expanded into crime syndicates being able to really target their victims, understand what needed to be taken out in order to be able to make that organization inoperable, and demand the biggest ransoms. And so after the WannaCry attack, we saw an increase in the amount of ransom demand because the subjects, the cyber criminals, were going after big fish in order to be able to make the most for their crime syndicate. These gangs continue to operate. One of the things that's really developed in the last several years is most of these crimes originated from Russia and Russian organized groups. Most recently, last 2 to 3 years, we've seen Chinese groups become involved in the ransom syndicates and playing a more significant role. I think with China's involvement, we're in a much more vulnerable position when the Chinese government may get involved in making systems inoperable. So that's something that from a threat landscape perspective, we're concerned about as professionals. We also see the automation of the attacks significantly increasing with AI, where it doesn't necessarily, the command and control for the ransomware doesn't have to be made by a human any longer. It can be autonomous from a bot perspective, which makes it a lot more difficult for investigators because you don't have those communications controlling the ransom demand, the ransomware from an encryption perspective. You can still follow the money from a ransom demand perspective and payment, but it's much more difficult.
So let's say an organization has indicators that they're the target of a ransomware attack. What are the first 3 to 5 actions that they would want to take to try to kind of immediately deal with what might be starting to unfold?
So these should be premeditated. So the first thing is every organization should have a ransomware playbook. And a ransomware playbook is a set of decisions that have been pre-made by the leadership team of the organization, worked with their insurance provider and their legal counsel in order to be able to manage through an incident. And they should first protect their network to the maximum extent that they can. Shut down services that aren't unnecessary, services that might be able to prevent the ransom from the attack from expanding to different parts of the victim company's network. They should also, as a former law enforcement officer, I am a strong advocate of getting law enforcement involved. So you should have a pre-established relationship with the FBI and CISA. CISA has some really outstanding guidance on how to stop ransomware. And for your viewers that really want to be disciplined in their approach to ransomware preparedness and defense, that Stop Ransomware guide that CISA and the FBI has published is probably the best playbook that you should go through in order to make sure that you've got the right tools and techniques in order to be able to protect your organization.
Understood. I'm curious, sometimes in the heat of the situation, bad decisions can be made. How do organizations try to kind of manage that process and not inadvertently get in their own way and shut down the wrong stuff? Any thoughts on that?
Really good question, Jim. I've got a couple of best practices to consider. Every organization should prioritize their high-value applications. They should know what computer systems and what dependencies those computer systems have in order to understand what's necessary to run their business and protect those resources at all costs. Second is on bad decisions. An organization should not attempt to negotiate with the adversaries on their own. There are professional organizations that are very well equipped to be able to do that. Those relationships should be established before an incident occurs. They should know what's in their insurance policies as well, in order to be able to understand how they can go through and some insurance providers will cover the ransom costs. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and executive teams need to be on the same page. This is not the Chief Information Security Officer's sole decision process. This should include General Counsel and the CEO. The board should be knowledgeable and involved in order to be able to make the right decisions for the company based on the particular situation. And there's a lot of things that a company can do from a preventative perspective that I highly encourage. And it goes back to those best practices that CISA provides. And there are some very good tools out in the marketplace where that could support an organization in preparing for these kinds of events.
That makes sense. I'm wondering if you can talk about the role of backups in this whole process. I mean, some organizations I think today think like, well, as long as we've got good backups, we should be okay. Is that a fallacy? And then ultimately, what kind of situations do they find themselves in when they realize they've been hit with a ransomware attack, and then they've, like what are the outcomes of maybe having a good backup or versus a not so good backup? Make sense?
Yeah, Jim, that's very central to your ability to recover after an event and be survivable. And a lot of organizations think, I've got an offline backup, I can just restore that backup. That process of backup and restoration needs to be practiced. Also, there's an underlying assumption that the adversary hasn't been able to compromise that backup. And when did the adversary get in? How did they act in the network? And so it's important to have really good forensic tools that can provide snapshots on the integrity of the system through the entire attack chain. And then you have better assurance to know that you can actually restore from those backups. If an organization can restore from the backup, then they don't have to pay an encryption demand. Some organizations decide that it's in their best interest to pay when data has been exfiltrated because they don't want the release of the sensitive data out to the public.
I see. Yeah.
And time and time again, I've heard horror story after horror story, and seen it firsthand that organizations find that they don't know when the compromise occurred, and as a result, they don't know where to, the restore point on the backups. Do we go back 2 days? Do we go back 5 days? Can we trust the backups that were 3 weeks old? And I've seen companies, large companies, where millions of consumers were impacted that have completely rewritten their entire code base in order to be able to have that level of assurance that the adversary is out of the network and they can operate with high availability and integrity in their business systems. It's critically important.
Yeah. 2 follow-on questions. You talked about kind of the exercises or the practice. How often do you think they should be kind of testing or making sure that their backups are good? And my other quick follow-on question I wanted to ask you was, does paying the ransom actually always result in getting your data back?
So 2 really great questions. I'll start with the first one. Does it get the data back? There's no assurance that it will get the data back. You may get the decryption key. That the performance of recovering based on the decryption key really depends on how well the ransomware actor wrote their encryption tool. And most of those encryption tools are designed to be very dirty because they want to encrypt as fast as possible.
Sure.
As a result, they are not making sure that all the error checking is being properly made, and getting into some very technical details. So there's no assurance if you pay the ransom you will get your systems restored. And even if you pay the ransom for a data extortion, there's no assurance that the actors won't restore. One of the important points is one trend that we've seen time and time again. I've got a number of reference points that once a victim, the ransomware gangs target that organization time and time again. We've seen multiple situations where 6 months later, the same victim organization is facing another ransomware attack because the adversary knows that they'll pay, they're vulnerable, and so that's a real concern. So yeah, those are really significant problems.
And then the other question was how the frequency of the testing, validating that you've got appropriate backup controls in place. Any thoughts on that?
Restoration is extremely important, and I wouldn't necessarily give a hard and fast time because it really depends upon the nature of your application. If you are a financial institution that has to that is marking time based on your ability to make trades in milliseconds, you better be able to have your systems active at all times.
Yeah, sure.
There shouldn't be a time where you are restoring from a backup, and you should have the ability to have those always active. Organizations that have less mature needs from a transaction performance perspective, the very, very minimum would be quarterly.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
And
That long, huh? Okay.
that would be the very, very minimum
Sure,
in my mind. But more than likely, it should be at least monthly.
Okay. Awesome.
Because it takes resources from an IT perspective, and to do restoration, and the management and automation of those restoration systems should be perfected. But I know a lot of organizations just lack the maturity in order to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And the resources. Got it.
2 questions left for you. One of them is looking into the crystal ball, trying to predict how you think actors are going to unfold, attacks are going to unfold in this space over the next maybe 2 to 3 years. Or do you have any kind of thoughts on where things are headed? You talked about AI as a potential component of the attack vector. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I want to continue to build on those two threads that I kind of started from a trend perspective. The first is China. Director Chris Wray, in his many times, would talk about the capabilities of China from a critical infrastructure infiltration perspective, and that we often hear about all of these attack series called the Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, Bolt Typhoon. If you hear those associated to China nation state actors, Chris Wray would warn that China is waiting for a time of their choosing. They're deeply infiltrated into critical infrastructure like Colonial Pipeline, like our water systems and electric grid infrastructure. They're waiting for a time of their choosing in order to be able to do destructive attacks. I don't think those are going to be necessarily ransom attacks. I think those would be kind of state level attacks, but they're going to act very similar to a ransomware attack. And then on the other front, AI, I think we're going to continue to see an acceleration. It's easier for the actors to use AI to develop the source code, to be able to do the encryption. It's easier for them to be able to automate the attack scripts. And we're just going to see a continued explosion there. Understood.
Last final question, 30 seconds if you can make it or less. How can viewers learn more about you, reach out? What would be the best way for them to engage you if they had follow-on questions?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is the easiest. So Gregory Crabb, easy to find on LinkedIn. And through email is great, gregory.crabb@mimic.com.
Awesome.
And look forward to being able to support organizations that are facing these challenges.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
All right. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. We really appreciate Greg coming in and talking to us about ransomware and the full kind of life cycle about some of the challenges and risks associated with it. Now, relative to the show, for more information about Cybersecurity Today and future episodes, please visit our show's website at www.cybersecuritytoday.org. Additionally, you can scan the QR code displayed at the bottom of your screen for quick and easy access to our show's website. Finally, we welcome your questions or comments via email at contact@cybersecuritytoday.org. Feel free to reach out to us. We're here to assist and engage with you. That does it for today. Thanks a lot for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast. Stay safe, stay informed. Have a great day.